Our Earth is the home to millions of different kinds of living things. Living things share certain common characteristics which enable them to survive. These are called the life processes. Nutrition, respiration, circulation, and excretion are important life processes for all of us. We shall study about the life process nutrition in this chapter. Nutrition is the act of providing nutrients to the body cells of living organisms so that they can carry out activities to keep themselves alive. You have learned about the importance of food for all living organisms and their nutritive value in class 6th. Nutrients, components of food that are chemical substances and provide nourishment to the body. Nutrients provide us energy, promote growth, repair worn-out tissues, and protect our body from various diseases. Green plants are the most important part of food chain. They can make their own food from basic substances, water and minerals found in the soil, and carbon dioxide from atmosphere in the presence of sunlight. This process is called photosynthesis. Photo is equals to light. Synthesis is equals to putting together. All green plants convert solar energy from the sun into chemical energy of food. Animals cannot make their own food. They have to eat plants or other animals that have eaten plants in order to survive. It is for this reason that movement from one place to another in search for food and shelter is essential part of animal life. Types of nutrition. The mode of nutrition of living organisms may be classified into following types. Nutrition. Autotrophic. The mode of nutrition in which green plants prepare their own food and nourish themselves. All algae and some bacteria belong to this category. Heterotrophic. The mode of nutrition in which all non-green plants and animals draw their food from different sources. These sources may be plants or animals that eat plants. Cell. A cell is a mass of protoplasm having a distinct nucleus surrounded by a jelly-like cytoplasm and bounded by a cell membrane. Cells are building blocks of life and can be compared with bricks in a building. Cell can be seen with the help of a microscope. Plants and animals are made up of different kinds of cells. Autotrophic nutrition. Organisms which make or synthesize their own food from simple raw materials are called autotrophs. As they can prepare their food from raw inorganic materials, carbon dioxide and water, they are also known as producers. Autotrophs range from simplest green plants like algae to complex forms like the large branched trees. The mode of nutrition by green plants is called autotrophic nutrition. Auto is equals to self, trophs is equals to nourishment. Leaves, the plant's food factories. Green leaves are the kitchen of the plant. As in the cells of these leaves, there are tiny structures, the chloroplast, chloros is equals to green, where food is made by the process of photosynthesis. The chloroplast contain a green pigment, chlorophyll, that makes the leaf look green. Chlorophyll absorbs the solar energy and converts it into chemical energy. Algae, simple plants that grow in water. They may range from single-celled, example, Chlamydomonas, to tall seaweeds. They contain the green pigment chlorophyll so they can photosynthesize.
Conducting tissues. They are called vascular tissues and are placed as double pipeline throughout the plant body. These are of two types: xylem for carrying water and minerals from roots to leaves, and phloem for carrying dissolved food from leaves to storage organ of plant.
This chemical energy is stored in the food that is prepared. For photosynthesis, the leaves need water from the soil and carbon dioxide from the air. Water and minerals are absorbed from the soil by the roots, carried to the stem and finally to the leaves through water-conducting tissues called xylem vessels. These vessels are present throughout the plant body as series of water pipes from roots to leaves. Small aerating pores present in the leaf called stomata allow carbon dioxide to pass in and oxygen to be released out into the atmosphere.
Stomata, mostly present on the underside of the leaf. These are minute opening. Each stomatal apparatus has an opening. The stoma bounded by two bean-shaped guard cells and several epidermal cells.
Can we imagine an earth without green plants and no photosynthesis? In the absence of photosynthesis, there would be no living organisms and the earth would be a barren place. Thus, photosynthesis is important in the following ways. It is the ultimate source of food and energy for all living organisms. Oxygen released into the atmosphere is a life-supporting gas. The process helps in maintaining balance between oxygen and carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. All green plants prepare food as glucose, a type of carbohydrate. They store food as starch, a complex insoluble form of carbohydrate. These are stored in different storage organs like root, stem, leaf, fruit, and seed. Heterotrophic nutrition. Organisms that are not capable of synthesizing their food and are dependent on other organisms for their food requirement are called heterotrophs. Heteros is equals to other. As these organisms depend on others for food, plants and animals, they are also called consumers. All animals, including human beings, belong to this category. The mode of nutrition in non-green plants and animals is known as heterotrophic nutrition. Heterotrophic plants do not contain chlorophyll. Yeast, mushrooms, and molds are some examples of non-green plants. Can you name others? Heterotrophic nutrition in non-green plants. Heterotrophic nutrition in non-green plants are of the following three types. Heterotrophic nutrition in plants. Saprotrophic. Mode of nutrition in which organisms depend on dead and decaying matter. Example, yeast, molds, mushroom.
Parasitic. Mode of nutrition in which organisms depend on other living organisms. Example, Cuscuta.
Symbiotic. Mode of nutrition in which two living organisms live together for mutual benefit. Example, Rhizobium, lichen.
1. Saprotrophic nutrition. Organisms which feed on dead and decaying organic matter are called saprotrophs. Other terms used for saprotrophs with the same meaning are saprophytes and saprobinds. Saprotrophs secrete digestive juices on the dead and organic matter. It is then digested and converted into simple soluble forms. The soluble end products of digestion are then absorbed by the saprotrophs. The mode of nutrition in which organisms take in nutrients from dead and decaying organic matter is called saprotrophic nutrition. Saprotrophs are also called decomposers. Common examples of saprotrophs are fungi like mold, yeast, mushroom, and many bacteria. Fungi are more commonly seen growing during rainy season. They grow on plant and animal organic matter like clothes, pickle jam, bread, leather, wood, and paper. Fungi. Group of plants lacking chlorophyll, so they lead heterotrophic mode of life. Their body is made up of mass of very fine and cottony threads called hyphae. Parasitic nutrition. Parasitic organisms live on or inside other living organisms called hosts and derive their food from them. The mode of nutrition in which organisms take in food from other living organisms is called parasitic nutrition. In parasitic association, the parasite is always benefited whereas the host is harmed. Parasitic plants are of two types. Parasitic plants.
Total parasites. These plants cannot make their food and derive all of it from the host on which they are totally dependent throughout their life. Example, Cuscuta, Amarbel, a total stem parasite. Rafflesia, a total root parasite. Partial parasites. They have green leaves and therefore can make food for themselves. However, they get water and minerals they need for making food from the host plant. Example, Mistelato, a partial stem parasite. Sandalwood, a partial root parasite. Number 3. Symbiotic nutrition. Two organisms living in close association with each other, being of mutual benefit, are called symbionts. Syn, together, bios, life. And the condition of living together is called symbiosis. The mode of nutrition in which a close relationship between two organisms of different species is established and they live together for their mutual benefit is called symbiotic nutrition. Lichen is an example of such an association of two organisms. Algae autotrophs and fungi saprophyte. The fungus holds the algal cells in its mat of web-like hyphae and supplies them with water and minerals. Algae, on the other hand, prepares food and supplies it to the fungi. Rhizobium, the bacterium living in association with root nodules of leguminous plant, is another example. It derives its nutrition from the roots and in turn converts atmospheric nitrogen into nitrogenous compounds. These compounds are used by the plants for synthesizing proteins.
In this way, the soil is replenished with nitrogen naturally.
Synthesis of other organic compounds. During photosynthesis, green plants synthesize carbohydrates. These are organic compounds containing carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Plants also synthesize other organic compounds like proteins. Proteins help to make new cells and are required for growth of body by all living organisms. They are complex organic molecules containing nitrogen apart from carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. From where do plants obtain nitrogen? Though nitrogen is present in the atmosphere in abundance, about 78% by volume. Its form is inert and cannot be used by any organism directly. Plants derive nitrogen from the soil in the form of nitrogenous compounds. The conversion of free nitrogen of the atmosphere into nitrogenous compounds to make it available for plants is called nitrogen fixation. Nitrogenous compounds are made available to plants for synthesizing proteins. Different methods that help in converting atmospheric nitrogen into usable forms are electrical discharge during lightning process fix some amount of nitrogen in the soil. A number of free-living bacteria and symbiotic bacteria take part in fixing the atmospheric nitrogen. Azobacter is one such example of free-living bacteria. Rhizobium living in root nodules of leguminous plants fix atmospheric nitrogen in the form of nitrates. Farmers replenish nitrogen in the soil by adding fertilizers to the soil that contain nitrogen compounds. These fertilizers are water soluble. They are absorbed by the plants through the roots. Special mode of nutrition. A special category of plants are insectivorous plants. These plants are called carnivorous plants as they capture animals of different kinds, particularly insects. These are usually green and can make their own food. In this way, they supplement their normal autotrophic nutrition with the form of heterotrophic nutrition. Such plants typically live in nitrogen-deficient soil.
They trap insects using specialized leaves or parts of leaves, digest the prey, and absorb the nitrogenous products from their body. Hence, their nitrogen demand is fulfilled from external source rather than the soil.
The hollow leaves of pitcher plant are filled with a fluid. Insects come to drink it, but the lid closes. The insects are drowned and eaten by pitcher plant. The leaves of Venus flytrap is like a trap. It can close suddenly when an insect sits on them.
The leaves of sundew secrete a kind of fluid that glitters in the sun like dewdrops. When an insect sits on the leaf, it gets entangled in the sticky fluid.
Mineral nutrition. Plants need a wide variety of mineral elements for carrying out life functions. These are absorbed from the soil by the root system, carried to the stems, branches, and leaves. The mineral sources are air, soil, and water. Mineral salts get dissolved in water and are taken up. Plants use minerals in a number of ways. They become constituents of protoplasm and cell wall. Example, nitrogen and sulfur in proteins, magnesium in chlorophyll, and calcium in cell wall. The sources of some important plant nutrients are given in the following table. Source of plant nutrients: air, carbon dioxide, oxygen, water, hydrogen, dissolved metals in ionic form.
Soil: nitrogen, potassium, phosphorus, sulfur, calcium, magnesium, iron, manganese, zinc, boron, copper, cobalt, molybdenum.
These mineral nutrients are used by the plants for their growth and development. Their amount keep on decreasing in the soil as they are used by plants. In order to compensate for its loss, the farmers use fertilizers and manures. These contain specific nutrients that replenish in the soil.
This enrichment of the soil keeps the plant healthy, which leads to a larger crop output. Can you say why farmers practice crop rotation in their field?